Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Edge podcast brought to you by Lockin, where we have tough conversations with traders that have seen it all and made it to the top. Guys, today my guest is Louis Cooper, and I'm pretty sure you've been here for a cycle. During the previous cycle, you know who is this guy. I remember when I joined, I was, reading his analysis, his posts every single day because they were one of the few that were actually quality. And then you left the space. Now you came back, and that's why we are speaking. Pleasure to have you here, man. How is everything?
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. Yeah. Like you said, like been in crypto since 2021, 2020.
Mhm.
I was in the backgrounds, like this was in my university days.
Okay.
Um, yeah, taken like a year off now, but I've been following the space, just not posting on my account because it's just so much work. And so much like mental. I think it's always good to take time off if you can, but like real time off, not just I'm still on Twitter scrolling like a couple hours a day. It's like, no, I'm like completely detached from the space and I come in and check, okay, what's going on? Because it's a full-time job, just keeping up with the space, as you know. So
100%. So let's start with this. First of all, why did you decide to leave the space? What is the backstory behind that? Because like a lot of people do it, a lot of people also do it half-ass, as you said. But you actually like you went silent. There was no post on your Twitter, and all that. What was the reason?
well, yeah, I just believed in what I said before about fully taking time off and like protecting your mental health in a way. But it was also just because up until that time, from 2021, around that time when I started posting, it had been nonstop. It
Mhm.
was every day. Like there was like a 3 year streak where I posted on Twitter basically. Like
Wow.
at the start, that was like super, super intense. And then it just came to a natural point where we had had like a crazy alt run, and then well, for some people, and then you had a couple months on Solana, like at the end of 2024 into the Christmas, where it was insane. Like this was like around like chill guy times, and it was just like frothing to the top. Um, and so yeah, took some time to spend with my family, and it was in hindsight, I should have sold everything at this moment. When my body was naturally telling me, all right, it's time to stop, it's time to take a break. And when you see yourself getting outcomes which are maybe beyond your skill level, like to
Hmm.
humble myself in a way, it should have been a sign or a signal for you to say, okay, it's time for me to sell everything and yeah, come back later. But yeah, still made some profit, but it was just the right time to do it. And I think if the market would have, at this time, people were still expecting a super good 2025, I would have
Yeah.
continued on, say in like Jan, Feb. And there was a time like midsummer, right, where it did come back, but yeah, it's just market was too unappealing to put my effort into it, so I decided to just do my own thing outside.
How did it feel in that moment? Like, was it like just a decision? Hey, I'm quitting the space. I'm selling what I'm selling. I'm keeping some, or it was like I'm gonna hold it and it's gonna be big. I'm more thinking about the emotional side of your trading back then.
I was still under the belief that we were gonna have a good 25. Um, and yeah, it's just it's a hard time to reflect on because I don't like to think so much in hindsight about what you could have done, knowing now, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but it is pretty hard to say. I don't know how to describe it. Like yeah, you could have done this, you could have done that, but I think most people were still expecting for things to continue going up in an uptrend. We were like gonna enter some super cycle, whatever. Um, but I think it was a mistake to have that. And if you're going to take the time off, you should cut like a lot of your you should cut a lot of your bags. And yeah, that this was my mistake.
Because I agree with you. Like, obviously, if you always gonna be like, if you're always gonna beat yourself and be like, oh, I should have done that. That never works. But I think there is also a part of this whole thing where you have to analyze and look back and be like, hey, next time I'm not gonna do this thing. So, what do you think were those things for you?
Yeah, like that is something which I have pondered a lot and something which I have a lot to say. But I think it's quite tricky. Like you need to actually be honest with yourself about the mindset you were in during those
Yeah.
moments. And for me, the mindset I was in was I didn't recognize, which is what I said before, that the outcomes I was receiving were way above my pay grade. You know, like I've
Mm,
spoken about it a lot since I've gotten back now, but I don't consider myself a crazy good trader or anything like that. I've just focused on a few specific things and tried to narrow in, like put my blinders on. And so when you're receiving outcomes which are way above what you can realistically expect, like it's because the market's like frothing up and it's coming to a top, and everybody around you, maybe not everybody, but a majority of people who are paying attention are also having crazy good gains. And that is when it should be a signal to, it's like a humbling experience to tell yourself, all right, I may have not achieved my imaginary number in my mind, which is where I'm going to take all my profits, which is kind of bullshit anyway. Like it's created by the
yeah.
space, but I've
Yeah.
achieved enough, you know?
Hmm.
And that is for sure my biggest takeaway from this time, that things were ridiculous and I was still just chasing a random figure in my mind. And that's why I didn't cut a majority of my bags. I decided to hold on instead of just, like I said, humbling myself and waiting for the next opportunity. Like I'm still so young. I'm still just 25. At that time, I was 24, 23. So
Hmm.
there was really no point to take that risk. You're having the time off, then you should, if you're not going to come back in the space in like a week, you should you should cut a lot of your allocation, right?
Hmm. No, I mean, you said that you don't consider yourself the best trader, but somehow you still manage to pull these things. So this is what's interesting for me, like because yeah, you did manage to, like, first of all, let's speak about where the majority of your gains came from. Like, how did you make your money? Was it, let's say, spot? Was it leverage? Was it being early? Was it having big swing trades? Like, because you do have some sort of skill set that allowed you to be in this place, first of all, right?
Yeah, honestly, I think the biggest skill, first and foremost, was just being able to be risk on, like have a lot of risk
Okay.
tolerance,
What does
understand the
that mean for
position.
you?
It means understanding the position in my life. Like I joined crypto because I didn't want to do a a more steady career path, a more linear career path. So
Hmm.
what some people see as a risk of joining crypto, as in maybe they're giving up a different, like high paying job that they could have been in. For me, there was no risk. So my baseline risk was zero because I really do not care about this career path that I could have been on. Like I went to uni for accounting.
Right.
I knew at the end of my degree I was never going to do that to make money.
Hmm.
So what am I risking? Nothing.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
by willing to take risks in the space, even if it was amounts that I had not realized before, I was able to do like pretty insane multiples on a few alts like Pendle, for example.
Hmm.
Um, and so this just allowed me to grow exponentially, instead of quickly cutting profits and then having to rely more on my trading skills in a way for more setups. You know, if you're at a position in your life where you can take so much risk, then one win can like exponentially grow your portfolio and then exponentially grow your ability to now be risk on even more instead of, okay, I'm gonna like 1.5x here, 2x here, which in a bull market is nothing. uh, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but I think like secondly, like just being able to understand where my limits are, and like I didn't touch leverage, I didn't trade Bitcoin, I barely traded ETH, nothing
Hmm.
of this, because it's not my space. So, and I think the time investment to learn that from where the market was too much. It was impossible, like if you need to learn a speech for someone's wedding and you're doing it
Hmm.
on the taxi drive there, like it's too late. You may as well do something that is easy for you and it makes sense for you and you feel like, okay, I can learn this.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's also interesting what you're saying, because like um my realization from what you just said is that a lot of people in the space, they talk about don't be risk on, um I risk only X% per trade, and this is also good, but I think you also have to recognize in which phase you are at the moment, and at that time you were at the capital building phase. So you
Yeah.
had to be risk on. You had to be like, okay, I'm not trading Bitcoin. Like if you get to six figures and millions, and then you can, put a part of that into Bitcoin and just forget. But I think, and I do believe also, you start with a lower amount as everyone. that's when you have to be risk on and have to kind of like take asymmetric opportunities.
Yeah. I started with like 3 figures. So there's no, which I think like second cyclers and third cyclers suffer from, there's no mental block. You know, I was, any growth
Mm.
was into clean air. And so any gains that you have in your life or like in your trading were just,
Yeah.
you are constantly raising your ceiling, you know, so you have nothing to stop you from telling you that, oh, I can't achieve this, you know, I can't do this from this trade. Like being now going into my second cycle, I really envy people who would see this as their first cycle now. Like it's such a powerful thing to be doing something for the first time and not
Oh yeah.
knowing your limits. It's so powerful, like something I would pay like an infinite amount for. So yeah, but I think what you said about,
Hey, real quick, if you trade crypto or Forex and you keep running into the same set of mistakes, like taking profits too early, moving stop losses all the time, chasing the pump at 3 a.m., I know exactly what you're doing because I've been in the same place. And that's why we built Lock-in. Analyze thousands of accounts, over 400 data points per trade, 11 emotional states, every single thing that destroy traders. It's like whoop, bad for traders. Now, if you want to get access to top 7 mistakes that destroy over 90% of accounts, go to lockin.trade and leave your email. That will also put you on a priority access for the Lock-in app. Now, let's get back to the podcast.
people saying, oh, only risk like X amount of your portfolio. I think they're just listening to the wrong people. You know, you're on Twitter and you have $1,000 portfolio and you're listening to someone who has $10 million portfolio. Like
Yeah.
there's only a small amount of assets where they can actually risk all of their capital. Whereas for you, you could risk $1,000 in every single asset, in every asset class imaginable, you know? So you don't have to take those risks if you don't want to, but if you do want to exponentially grow your capital, it's a necessity.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we are in crypto, right? Because I don't think there is another asset class that allows you to get those kind of returns in such a short period of time.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're not using leverage. And I think for most people, this just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. What is the connection between your trading market moves and your writing on Twitter? Like, what's the backstory basically behind writing on Twitter? Why did you even decide to start doing that?
I was working at a previous agency before as a
Okay,
copywriter, and we were
right.
working with influencers and such, and I realized that like there was so much more to be added to the space and that it was free in a sense. Like in those times, like it was very easy to grow on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Things were just a lot easier than maybe they are now. It was a lot less. There was a lot more unknown. This is like pre Kaito, pre any like InfoFi stuff. So it just made sense. Like it was such a good possibility for me to get into the space and make some money through some partnerships and such that it was free. And but also speaking about your investments and what you're trading is super powerful. Like it helps you keep a clear mind. You can be invested in something and believe in it and then start writing about it and realize like just how ridiculous you sound, you know. And it's a little bit of
That's
a
a good one.
reality check, but yeah, but also like probably the most important thing is that like in a space which is so, there's so much asymmetry, right? For like for who knows what, having an account in the space and people knowing you is like infinite leverage. Like I contribute most of my success to other people that I know, other people that have helped me, and that's just the game. That's the game for anything. Like even the people who are invested in SpaceX now. Like, do you think a lot of them are like genius people who can envision that? Okay, this is gonna do like tenfold or 100x my initial investment. No, like they know somebody who got them into that early round. You know,
Yeah.
and that's life. So I think it's super important in this space, just like any other space.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on Kaito? Because like a lot of people kind of divide CT between these two phases where it's like pre-Kaito and then post-Kaito. And what do you think changed?
Yeah, I think Kaito was maybe at first a little bit of a reality check for a lot of creators because crypto marketing, influencer marketing is really not based on, at least I think a majority of it is not based on actual returns from the creator and more about social proof. Like the space is so small that if like it's just worth it for someone to pay for a big account to be following them and mentioning them. they don't necessarily have to make like returns on paper for that project. Just the social proof is enough. So once Kaito came around, it kind of shattered that. Projects could pay a relatively small amount, relative to what they were paying agencies, for
Yeah.
campaigns. Like, was it like 150K they could start to run a campaign,
Yeah.
minus the rewards? This is ridiculously low compared to, like, there'll be some KOLs who would charge close to this for some in tokens, like for a month's support, right? So relative, it's kind of ridiculous. But then in the back end of this, it started to become a bit kind of sloppy. I wasn't super around in the back end of that, but yeah, I think it kind of ran its natural path. And there was definitely faults in that which came out, and yeah, now it no longer exists. But I think it changed the space forever. It added a lot of people who were just there to farm small rewards, and I understand why they would do that. So yeah, but the space is different after those platforms were around.
I was gonna ask you now because you I think you have a very unique perspective compared to all of us that has actually stayed in the space. Is the perspective thing, right? That you don't see certain things the same way as if this is your first cycle, you're gonna look at it differently than someone like you and me. What do you see that changed? Like, what is different?
So much pessimism. Like, I wrote about it the other
Really?
day. There's just like no nowadays. There's like no one believes. There's not a like when I came into the space, I was so naive. I genuinely believed a lot of the stuff. Like, I genuinely wrote with passion about these projects. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is so sick. And then the months go by, the years go by, you watch these tokens go to zero naturally, or the team does something shady, liquidity gets pulled, some random bullshit, like something happens like
Yeah.
this. And bit by bit, you just get your belief gets chiseled away, and then you're left to where most people are now, where they're just really just trying to extract. And when there's a market which isn't good, and you really haven't built an ability to trade like majors or something, you're just kind of stuck, which I think is where a lot of traders are now. A lot of people in the space are now. At the moment, there's like not much free money to pick up off the ground, so you're just kind of waiting. And obviously, the lack of new participants is the biggest reason why there's no new believers. Like, I think crypto needs that, and as each idea comes and is proven to not work, it just hits away at people's willingness to believe, right? And then you have projects with actual use case with revenues, which are putting those other projects in the shadows. Yeah, you need those things to speculate, and they just don't exist at the moment.
Hmm. So how are you positioned right now? Like, are you even in the market, or you're starting to
No,
look for opportunities? Like,
not at all, because I don't believe I have any edge at the moment. I think that's just my
mhm,
learnings from the past few years, that if I was to just blindly hold stuff that people are telling me to hold,
yeah.
there are a few projects which I am holding, but it's not my entire portfolio.
Hmm.
And I think it's just the type of trading I was doing was being realistic, reliant on like a bull market. Like, I think 95% of traders in this space, like it's easy to be a good trader if things are going up, but if you're just trying to maximize that. But the obvious things like hype. I mean, I still hold some Pendle from
Hmm.
a long time ago, but that's because I
Yeah.
think it's a great pick in the bear market. But for me, there's not much to position other than you look at new projects which are kind of at the intersection of like crypto and AI, because this is what most people are speaking about, and I still think it's based on attention. And so try to look at projects which are upcoming in this space. Like, I really do believe that the best coin you're yet to trade like still doesn't exist, and there's still a project out there which is going to launch and you can profit from. Um, and I think you should wait for that, especially in conditions like this.
Hmm. What do you think
Unless
makes Pendle? Oh yeah, go ahead.
like, unless you're willing to learn a skill which isn't necessarily reliant on just a frothy market. Like, for me, I never wanted to learn how to leverage trade. I wasn't
Hmm.
interested in it. I thought it wasn't a good use of my time, and I'm not going to start now. you know.
I
So,
see.
but with Pendle, it's just shown that it has product market fit.
Okay.
There's very few projects which have that. Um, the team has shown that they're willing to continue to build, even though a lot of rich teams would just completely fall off the map. And
Yeah.
I think that's a huge thing you can bet on. You know, it's just isn't like it's a big reason why people are betting on hype. I mean, it's the only thing like it has product market fit, right? It's competing, and the team has shown willingness to continue to build, even though they got rich.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think hype is also interesting because, um, as far as I know, the team was very rich before already. Like Jeff made crazy money on market making before he launched
Oh
Hyperliquid.
yeah,
Actually,
okay.
yeah. So that's actually a different motivation, which is also like interesting for anyone that's listening, and you guys like vet founders, and that's also something I have seen personally whenever I'm speaking with founders is that it's a completely different level of conversations and commitment and even the way these people think. If that's that if for them is this kind of product is like make or break, if they have to make the money first, they will make completely different decisions. And if someone has already made the money, they don't even care about the money here and now, that's also a different set of decisions. And I think it's good to
Yeah,
invest in these kind of people.
yeah. I think there's positives and negatives to both. Like some might think the person who's already made it is not hungry enough,
Oh
but
yeah.
I tend to believe with you. Like I think if someone is doing something for a purpose in their life, and you can see that they're willing to commit a lot of time to that. I did not know that he had made a bunch of money. I thought hype was how him and his team made a bunch of money, which was why I was more impressed that they decided to stick around because it's not just like a million, which is still a shit ton of money in the real
Yeah.
world. It's like ridiculous money they made, right? So
Yeah.
being able to stick around after that, yeah, I was super impressed by. Like I don't know if I could do that, but I think it's the purpose thing. You know, what was the purpose here? To make
I
money
mean,
or to have a product?
I think it was both, to be honest. But I think also like for builders that already made it, if your nature is to build things, it's like, what else do you do? What else do
Yeah.
like literally what else do you do? Because if you are not interested in in cars, in yachts, and fucking watches, like and also realistically how many you can buy, right? Then it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I don't have to work anymore for the next 20 years, 50 years, or forever. I can just put that money in the indexes and I don't care. But then it's like, what do I do with my time? And I know, for
Mhm.
example, that's why I think another company that I really admire on there's like kind of like a similar pattern is actually Extended. It's competitor of Hyperliquid. So the team they come from Revolut, and yeah, you can imagine like all the stock options, etc., that they got
Mhm.
from there, and now they build this exchange, which is also yeah competitor to Hyperliquid, but the team is, from what I've seen, very aligned incentives and yeah, just put an interesting perspective on like teams and building.
Yeah. Like I remember back in like 2022, 23 when things were kind of crazy and like into 24.
Yeah,
Um, it, it was all about just like someone coming up.
yeah.
Um, but you knew that as soon as they made any bit of money, that they were gonna be gone, you know? And the amount of things that people threw away just because they made a bit of money and they kind of, like, lost their head
Oh
was insane. I don't think those guys were willing to or many people are willing to see it through, you know? Even though they have no better opportunity in their life, they just feel like things are fleeting away from them, and they have to take as much as they can at that moment instead of, like, having this self-belief that, "Okay, I can continue to I can continue this, I can continue to grow this, even though my ceilings are being shattered of what I once thought was possible for myself." You know, like what we spoke about at the start.
Yeah.
I think it's super important for your mental to have this belief in yourself because yeah, like money is an exponential thing in trading and in all aspects of your life, even if you're not making your money trading. And so being able to break your ceiling and continue to go through, yeah, I think it's incredibly important.
I agree. I agree, 100%. 100%. Are you seeing any interesting companies right now that are maybe on the verge of, let's say, AI and crypto? Because you mentioned this is something that, in your opinion, is a little bit undervalued right now. Do you see
Well,
anything or?
I think it's just something that's going to come to fruition because of what the attention is right now. You know, I'm mainly just speaking to friends who I'm mostly interested in people who are like close to me and they're trying to build something for themselves. But that's
Mhm.
just because I'm not trying to throw money at something at the moment. I'm more understanding that, okay, I need to put myself back in my 2021 shoes and understand
Yeah.
that I'm not right now. I need to learn a shit ton before I can think, okay, I know where we're at and what is just a scam or what is just like some ChatGPT wrapper. You know what I mean? Um, and so I think that this is where I'm at, still just learning in this space, and thinking, okay, is this thesis right or not? I don't know.
I think it's a very good place to be in, right? Because you are not rushing. You're not like, oh yeah, I have to. And I mean, a lot of people have that. They're like, if not this trade, that trade, and I have to always put my money somewhere. And I think when you finally step back and you're like, I don't have to put my money anywhere. I can just see what's happening.
Yeah, that's the lesson I learned from like when I took my break. Like I lost a shit ton of money because I refused to just take the money out and not let it do anything. Because since I had started making money in crypto from 2021, that's all I had known. I just compounded, 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 and it's yeah, it works until it doesn't. Like having your money just in your bank or in your wallet, like this is a trade in itself. So um, once you can
I,
see it like that, you can start protecting your money.
I think, as you said, fundamentally, these are two different skill sets, right? Like one skill set is making the money, which requires taking opportunities, being fast, being risk on, and then there is keeping the money, which is exactly the opposite. It's being slow. You know, if you have to think about a decision 2 weeks, you think about decision 2 weeks. These kind of things, and but then you have to switch, and that's why a lot of great entrepreneurs are absolutely terrible investors, and a lot of incredible investors are shit entrepreneurs, because these two roles require completely different skill sets.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like if I take myself back to this time in
Yeah.
like end of 2024.
Hey, real quick, if you trade crypto or Forex and you keep running into the same set of mistakes, like taking profits too early, moving stop losses all the time, chasing the pump at 3 a.m., I know exactly what you're doing because I've been in the same place. And that's why we built Lock-in. Analyze thousands of accounts, over 400 data points per trade, 11 emotional states, every single thing that destroy traders. It's like whoop, bad for traders. Now, if you want to get access to top 7 mistakes that destroy over 90% of accounts, go to lockin.trade and leave your email. That will also put you on a priority access for the Lock-in app. Now, let's get back to the podcast.
You're making so much from like trading shitters on Solana, or your alts are still doing really, really well. Like why would you take this money out and put it in something boring, or just keep it in cash to take a breather and think about like, holy shit, like let me realize where I'm at. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you just want to keep compounding, you just want to keep going. Um, but you're right, like it's a completely different skill set, and it's something I didn't learn until later on. That yeah, I could just keep money outside of a trade. Yeah, but that's just the market. Like that's what I wrote about. Like you in sports, you would be like I don't know what you call it, like a like a one-way player. Like I don't know if you're into basketball. Like you look at like James Harden or something, he's like
Yeah.
not even participating on defense.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the traders. Like you can just be all offense and just taking these trades, but your defense is taking money out of the market, protecting yourself, because the market will come around and humble you, um, even if you think it won't. It will. It will.
It will eventually, yeah. And I think, I mean, for me, it's the same. It was a very painful lesson. And I think it 100% has to do everything with your emotions and the ability to admit that you are wrong. Because fundamentally, there is no secrets to trading. But in the moment, you don't see this kind of perspective, right? Like you're like, oh, I just lost this, I have to make it back. Or and 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 then cutting that loss, it requires a lot of humility. And then there's this famous graph when it's like, oh, minus 20%, okay, it's gonna bounce, and then it goes minus 50, and then you sell, and then you're like, it's done, and then it goes back up, right? um and yeah, I think what helped me personally is assuming that I can also I'll always be wrong, and playing out kind of like different scenarios in my head. So
Hmm.
now when I enter a trade, I try to be like, okay, if this happens, I do this. If that happens, I do that. Um, and that's kind of like really helped me to even sleep well. Because before I was like, I think you can call it an addiction to some extent, where you're like addicted to a number going up. When the number is going down, it feels like, oh fuck, I'm experiencing pain almost, and
Yeah.
then it's hard to sleep, which is not something that many people talk about.
Yeah, and you've raised your expectations to a certain dollar amount, which I think a lot of people like in
Yeah.
crypto do, and then
Oh
this
yeah.
gets shattered and you feel broke. Like I've had times where, like, in my background, I used to be a delivery driver, like
Yeah.
for food, and so when I would be profitable, I would give them a huge tip.
Yeah.
And then I've had times where I've been unprofitable or I've taken a loss and I've given them no tip at all, which is
Yeah.
ridiculous because like the net worth swing is not enough to not
Yeah.
give them a tip, you know? But I still been like in my mind, like so
I'm
damaged by
broke.
this loss. I'm broke. I'm
Literally,
broke. I
you can have
I
six
can't
figures and
afford.
you feel broke.
I'm broke, but just because it's relative to my expectations, which is just human nature, but it's super damaging, I think. Um, and I think this is how I made most of my losses, just believing that, I can't cut this trade now. Things will go back up, and time and time again, the market has rewarded me, and
Hmm.
so I'm gonna continue this strategy, which is kind of it's a strategy, but then it just becomes a prayer. Like I'm just praying that things go back, and then it goes back to your entry, and now you're thinking, I'll just wait for a little bit of profit, and it's just I think a lot of people kid themselves about how good they are about trading, and in reality, it's just the market they're in. You know, that
Yeah.
was a lesson for me, and I think it's not a bad thing to admit that.
Yeah, that's a big one, by the way. Like understanding the market you trade in, because things that work in a bull market aren't gonna work in a bear market, right? And then usually there's this transition moment, which I think like right now everyone is aware that we are either in a full bear market or we are heading towards the end of the bear market. But before, I would say that was like maybe the beginning of 2026, end of 2025. There was this, and like the last 7 8 months have been mostly chop. So there were people trying to trade this period like it's bull market, um, but it's not.
Yeah.
And then they'll just lose a lot of capital because of that, because they were not able to identify that, hey, it's not the same market and I should kind of like adapt, right? And yeah, one thing we noticed as well is like while speaking with traders, like statistically, after you lose and then every single trade you take after that, you're more likely to lose because you just like stop following your rules. We had this interview with I forgot. Oh yeah, her name is Kaya Parf. She used to work for Bank of America and multiple CFD brokers, and she
Okay.
said that in retail trading, that's literally all it is. It's position management and sizing. Is that like in the moment, you don't follow your rules, and literally like your brain is lying to you. There's something with like your cortex part of the brain where, um, yeah, the moment you switch your decisions based on your P&L and you switch your strategy, right? So you'll move your stop loss, for example, because you're like, oh, I don't want to take a loss right now and it's gonna go back up, so I'm gonna move my stop loss. But then at the same time, when the position turns green, you're just gonna like you're gonna take the profits very quickly,
Hmm.
right? Or you're just gonna keep adding to losing positions and you're gonna keep taking the winners very quickly. There's so
Hmm.
many things like that, and I think having the ability to understand that your brain is constantly lying to you has been like, I mean, for me it has been very useful.
Yeah. 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 And I think this also comes down to like what type of trading you're doing. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
this is where people really go wrong. Like from day one, I always knew, okay, I'm not trading perps, I'm
Yeah.
not trading majors, because like what edge do I have in that space? And so there are some things I can take from these traders, like or even like someone who's more relying on macro. But if I'm in a bull market and I'm trading like a very specific type of coin, like for example, whether I'm like trading like soul memes or I'm trading alt, like really all this outside stuff is just noise. But
Yeah.
kind of kidding myself by using these lessons from people who are trading like Bitcoin, and
Yep.
what the fuck does this guy have to do with what I'm doing? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so like I'm in my own little small bull market, but I'm just trying to block out all this other noise, because this coin is on its own different trajectory, and I think people kind of idolize a certain type of trading when they have nothing to do with it, and they're just kind of kidding themselves. And like it works both ways. Um, and I think
Yeah,
just
I
like
think
blocking out that noise was super important.
you're very right, because like most people, they don't even identify what kind of traders they are. They're like, oh, I'm gonna touch prediction markets, I'm gonna touch leverage, I'm gonna do a bit of spots. Well, first of all, you're gonna be mediocre in everything if you try to do everything. And yeah, second of all, it just doesn't work. It never works on a long enough time horizon. And people don't also think about their own edge. They're not like, okay, so what do I know that other people don't know that makes me take this trade, right? Why I have higher chance to make this trade profitable? Which, let's be honest, as you said, in majors is impossible. Like, unless you are a big insider, you can't know these things.
Hmm.
So
And
that's why I like how you think about this, because again, like most people don't spend time on defining their edge. It just doesn't happen.
yeah, and they want to jump into other trades, and they forget that a lot of the stuff they see, like especially if they're on crypto Twitter, it's like people are lying to you all the
Oh
time.
yeah,
People are lying to you, and
big time.
this is a whole nother thing that you need to wrap your mind around. Like the same with people with like Insta and all these things. So like people are constantly lying to you for their best interest, even like huge names which you think could never do it because in your mind you put them on a pedestal or something. Like these
Yeah,
guys can be broke. These guys got liquidated doing this. These guys are just like making no profit. Um, it doesn't really matter, if they are or not. Like, and that's the part I think about this like pessimistic stage. People just perpetually think now that people are lying to them. That projects are lying to them.
yeah,
And I think with your trading, like you kind of
yeah.
these
Adopt that.
personalities that you attack. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I really feel that. And I think just like staying in your lane, unless you're willing to put in the work to get to another one, is really like key, really key. You like know a specific sector, like crypto's so big now. You want to know just a specific sector and roll with that. And because of how bad people's attention span is, you don't really need to spend that much time to get good at it. Like I remember I dedicated like basically half a year in 2024 to get good at just trading on like meme scope, like on Photon on Axiom.
Yeah.
And I became pretty profitable. And it wasn't like people didn't follow me for this stuff. I didn't post much stuff about this, but this was all I did. Once I started this, it was all I did, like 10 hours a day. I hit some really good trades, but I was just blocking out everything. There was so much opportunity at that time. If you tried to take everything, you would take nothing.
Yeah, attention span has literally everything to do with that. Because like the world is moving so fast that people are under this illusion that they can, kind of like touch everything, but it doesn't work. It just
Yeah,
just just doesn't work.
yeah. Like
So
30 years ago, people were doing just one thing. Like
yeah,
pre-internet, they were doing like a couple things. That's it.
yeah. So knowing all of this, how do you see yourself in the near future? How does that gonna change the way you post on Twitter? What do you post on Twitter? What is your plan for yourself?
Honestly, I think so much has changed since I've been away,
Okay.
even with the algorithm. And I think for me, like the next couple of weeks to like a couple of months, looks at just like identifying what is missing. What is missing from people's content that I'm reading? What do I want? What do I want to see? And also, what am I interested in? Um, that's why I would like with the AI stuff. Some of it I'm really not interested in. And so, but is there a gap there? You know, um, is there a gap in which other people also are going to like your content? Because now there's so much saturation on Twitter
Hmm.
that I think you actually need to be quite niche, and regain influence. Like I lost so much social capital over the last year since I've been away, and I recognized that. and you need to like humble yourself and start from a lower position again. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. It's still a finding game. It's the same as trading. I can't jump in back to where I was a year and a half ago, like the credibility where I was at a year and a half ago. I need to humble myself and not start from scratch, but start from a much lower position and work from there.
Awesome. Cool. For the people that want to follow you, where they can find you?
They can just find me on Twitter. It's is it just Louis? I think my name changed, but it's just Louis Crypto. You'll find me if you type in my name, Louis.
Awesome. So add Louis Crypto on Twitter. Louis, thank you so much for your time. I think it was a very good interview. Some serious wisdom passed. And hopefully we're gonna run more of these things in the future. We're gonna reflect, in 2 years, what happened.
Yeah, I'm even more broke than I was now. So yeah,
No,
we can
no.
go again. No, yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate the opportunity.